Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Prem Roundup. We have a special Friday edition of our show due to the fixture congestion of the holiday period, and also just I've been taking care of some sick family members recently and haven't had a whole lot of time to make videos on the Premier League. However, we are going to get a special 2 match week episode as there's a game I have to go back and talk about from last weekend. So don't forget to subscribe and to comment below on the season so far, as we're almost to the halfway point, which is just sort of crazy to think about. And to start, we're going to head back to last weekend to talk about Liverpool beating Manchester City 2-0 at Anfield to extend their lead at the top to, at the time, 9 points. And to be honest, this game was almost over as soon as it started. Liverpool were straight on the front foot, pressing, they were full of energy, they got to every single loose ball, and City just really couldn't handle it and they couldn't cope with it. Liverpool got their goal in the 12th minute as Gakpo bundled in a Salah cross, and then they made it 2-0 with a penalty with about 10 minutes left. Mo Salah has just been incredible this season. 11 goals and 7 assists on the season after this game, and obviously with some hindsight now into the midweek fixtures, it's 13 goals and 8 assists, and he's just been Liverpool's talisman and has answered the bell at every step. He's been nothing short of spectacular. Every time they need something, he delivers and is easily the front runner for Player of the Year this season. I would say that Liverpool, especially recently, the knock on them early was, oh, you haven't played anybody, you've had a very easy run of fixtures, and we'll just wait until you get into this tough run of fixtures, and they've gotten there and they've sort of passed with flying colors. I think losing Konate here for a bit is going to be a little bit troublesome for them, and I don't love their depth at center back. I do sometimes worry that they are a bit reliant on goals in transition, but I think the same thing can be said about any of the top teams in the league this year. Arsenal, they're too reliant on their set pieces. City are too reliant on Erling Haaland's goals. So it's not a knock on Liverpool to say that. I just think that's a trend that I'm noticing with them in their games. I think they really just have to look to avoid a fall off like they had last season when it comes to having a negative result or a string of results. You know, how do they bounce back? How do they get back to winning ways? They haven't really had to deal with that so far this year. But when it does happen, or if it does happen, you know, how do they bounce back? They're a real experienced group. They've been here. They've done that. So they should be able to pull themselves out of it. But it is still a long season. They still got a long way to go. But they have been looking fantastic so far and definitely deserve to be where they're at. On to midweek, there is one result that I want to talk about more details, and that is the Arsenal result beating Manchester United 2-0 at the Emirates. Arsenal win this game off 2 goals from corners, one from Jurrien Timber and the other from William Saliba. Arsenal's set pieces are just a joke and are such a weapon for them, and honestly it allows them to not necessarily need a 20-goal scorer to possibly win the league up top when they have defenders scoring in total 10-plus goals every season, and that's a massive advantage for them. You know, they already have 6 goals from defenders this season, and now they're only 7 points off the top. Still a long way to go, but it's definitely a gap that they can close, and they've gotten a lot better and gotten back into sort of a groove since Martin Odegaard's come back. But the team I mainly want to talk about is Manchester United. This was my first time really getting to watch them under Ruben Amorim, and it was better than I was expecting, to be honest. I think they're taking the right approach, which is trying to shore up the defense first as much as possible with what he's got. They're very compact and organized. They maintain their shape really well and their defensive structure. They didn't really let Arsenal get into a rhythm offensively for the most part. Obviously, they did concede a lot of corners, but with the way Arsenal had been playing recently, especially against West Ham, the way they had been opening up teams and having these little 1-2s and underlapping runs out wide to help free up space for Saka to just be dangerous. I mean, United dealt with it really well, and it's something that we haven't seen from them in years, to be honest. If they can sort of consistently defend like this, I think it will change a lot of those losses that Ten Hag would have into at least draws where, you know, as much as it sucks to say for Manchester United with how big of a club they are, with where they're at right now, they need any points that they can get. just to try and push for the top 4. So when you have those unexpected road losses, to your Crystal Palaces or your Brentfords, hopefully with this new system, with their structure, they can turn some of these into at least draws so that they're not losing as many points. They're still at least getting something out of the game. My concern with them is sort of going forward. There's just not enough there right now. They only created 0.04 XG in open play against Arsenal. They had a really nice set piece chance that David Raya made an incredible save for, which I think accumulated about 0.27. That was most of their XG for the entire game, just that one chance. It's just simply not good enough, and with the quality that they have up there, along with just the amount of money that they have spent up in that area, it's definitely a cause for concern. I think Amorim needs to be given the time to either bring in his own players to fit what he wants to do going forward, or he needs to be given time to develop the young pieces that they have: Rasmus Højlund, Joshua Zirkzee, Garnacho. I think Rashford being benched tells you everything you need to know about whether he's in Amorim's plans or not. He did play him the first 2 games in the Premier League, but then when it came to the big game against Arsenal, he didn't want to start him. I don't know if that's necessarily due to just the game plan, and we know Rashford has a history of not really being much of a presser. Maybe that's what it is, but I don't think it's a good omen if you're being left out against the big teams, but you get to play against Everton and Ipswich. It's a manager that needs time. Especially just the club itself needs an overhaul. Constantly changing the manager has not solved anything. They've shown that, and I don't know why they keep doing that. I think there needs to be a massive clean out of the squad. I think there's still a lot of deadwood. The players who just either can't stay fit to be able to play, you got to offload them, and the players who just aren't good enough to the quality that Manchester United expects, they also need to be offloaded. Alright, and quickly I'd just like to go over the results from last weekend. We got Brighton 1, Southampton 1. Southampton pick up an irrelevant point. They're going to get relegated. That's just the reality of the situation. Brentford 4, Leicester 1. Brentford are the best team in the league at home so far this season. They've got 6 wins and 1 draw in their 7 home games, and they're following their plan to a T. Like I said in my preview video, they had to bring their home form back. They were really good at home those first 2 years they were up, then they struggled last year. This year they brought it back up, and look where they're at now. Middle of the table, where they should be. Crystal Palace 1, Newcastle 1, and Newcastle get really lucky to get a draw out of this relatively dull game. Nottingham Forest 1, Ipswich 0. I thought Ipswich played really well and probably deserved more from this game. And I still maintain that I think they can stay up. I still think they have probably the best chance out of the promoted teams, but it's closer now than it was. Wolves 2, Bournemouth 4. No revenge win for Gary O'Neill as Wolves' form is starting to stumble again. West Ham 2, Arsenal 5. 7 first half goals in this game. Arsenal were on it from the start. And that's now 11 goals in their last 2 games at West Ham, which is just ridiculous. Chelsea 3, Aston Villa 0. Honestly, why can't Chelsea be title contenders? They're right up there. Same points as Arsenal. Actually above Arsenal now on goal difference. Why can't they be title contenders? Manchester United 4, Everton 0. Rashford is back to scoring, which is good. But he's got to stay in the lineup. And like I said earlier, I don't know if Amorim trusts him fully. Tottenham 1, Fulham 1. Spurs are so inconsistent, and it's honestly very funny to me. And then let's quickly just go through the games on the midweek, the rest of those. We've got Ipswich 0, Crystal Palace 1. Crystal Palace stay out of the drop zone and keep Ipswich in it, which is big for them. Leicester City 3, West Ham 1. Lopetegui, I think, is getting sacked next. I don't see any way he survives this season at West Ham. And I think Ruud van Nistelrooy will be huge for Leicester, and I think he is someone who could possibly keep them up. And that's why I said it's a lot closer now between what teams I think can stay up. I think that hire for Leicester is huge. Everton 4, Wolves 0. Craig Dawson scored 2 goals in this game, and he plays for Wolves, so that tells you all you need to know. Manchester City 3, Nottingham Forest 0. Finally, man. They finally did it. They finally got their win. Newcastle 3, Liverpool 3. Mo Salah is just ridiculous, honestly, and I think he can carry this Liverpool team to the title himself if he really wanted to. Southampton 1, Chelsea 5. Like, just relegate them at this point. It's just do it now, honestly. Aston Villa 3, Brentford 1. Back to winning ways for Aston Villa after a really turbulent patch. They lost 3 of their last 4, so good win for them. They got Southampton next, so should be 2-2. Fulham 3, Brighton 1. Both these teams are in the top 6 right now. It's been fantastic seasons for them so far to start. Can they keep it up? Can they compete for these European spots? That's the big question. Bournemouth 1, Spurs 0. Tottenham showed more fight from the crowd than they did on the field. That's all I gotta say there. Tottenham seem like a bit of a mess right now. And with that, that'll conclude this week's Roundup. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, I'm planning to be a bit more consistent with these, but obviously with the holidays and a lot of fixtures coming up with that, it may be hard to stay on top of all of that. But don't forget to leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on everything Premier League on the season so far. And until next time, take it easy.